Hello, everyone. Today we're going to be kicking off more work on that podcast website. For a quick review of where we've been so far, we have been bootstrapping a Symfony 4 application. We have been working. Oh, some podcast website. For a quick review of where we've been so interesting. We have been bootstrapping a Symfony 4 application. We have been working. Oh, interesting. Need to change something that I have on here, my bad. There we go. All right. I've been trying to figure out the best way to interact with Facebook viewers, and this is not it. So I'm going to close what I was trying to do because that isn't working. So sorry about that. I apologize. All right. So getting back to where we were. All right, so we are bootstrapping a brand new Symfony 4 application for that podcast website. The previous site was a static site using Sculpin. What we've gotten accomplished so far is that we have the navigation set up using Flexbox and Tailwind. It doesn't look terribly pretty. It doesn't look like the site that we're ultimately going to build just yet, but it's getting there. The other bit that we worked on in the previous session is that we now have a way to export the information from the old site. So we go to thatpodcast.io/export.json, and what we should see is a raw dump of all of the episodes, including information that's broken out in a way that we can reproduce the existing site. And for remembering what that looks like, this is what the original site looked like. So we can sort of see a little bit of what the navigation is going to be looking like here. And we can also see that we've got an episode list. Individual episodes have images and some other metadata, and that is all going to be located within this export now. So what I sort of had in mind for today was looking for a way to ingest that export from the live site, just to see what we can do as far as creating a simple client for it. It's not going to be code that will live for very long, so I don't want to spend too much time engineering it. So I just want to be able to get that JSON file, parse it, and do something with it. And then we might start looking at modeling episodes. Hopefully everything here goes all right. Looks like Oliver's joined the chat. Glad you were able to make it just in time, Oliver. All right, so let's go to our PHP Storm, and this is still in the project with our export. The thing that I want to get before we actually leave here is I want to get the template. Here we go, for an episode. There we go. So I'm going to copy this, and I just want to make sure that I have this content so that once we jump into the new project, we don't have to keep going back here for this. So let's go back and open a different project, the original one. So we're going to go back to that podcast. Current window is fine. Awesome. And then I'm going to create new Scratch file. Generics, no. Let's do text. There we go. All right, so I don't know how to navigate to this. It's just scratch.txt. Okay, cool. So this should be good to go as we are building out the page. I don't know if we'll be doing that today or if it'll be a little later, but it should be all right. So what we need to do is build some sort of client. So I'm going to go back here, and one of the downsides, I call it a downside, to the new Symfony 4 layout, directory structure layout, is that everything in source is mapped to the app namespace. And I've never really liked that idea. I would love to be able to have, change the root namespace for some of my projects, or some pieces of my project, without having to name everything with an app prefix. But we're just going to have to deal with this for now. I'm going to create a new, let's do a new class, and let's call it, we'll put it in the namespace ingest. and we'll call it export client. All right, cool. So it's going to dump some defaults in here for us. The main thing that we're going to need from this is going to be some sort of HTTP client. So I'm going to use Guzzle just because Guzzle. Just to take a quick look at it, the best way to fire up a simple way to use it is just to to create a client, and then we can do a get pretty easily. So if we end up deciding to put a username and password on the export, which I don't see a reason why we need to, but we could do this pretty easily. So I'm going to test this out real quick. I'm going to head to packages and look for Guzzle. So this should be SR7. Here we go. HTTP Guzzle. Yeah, I think this is the newer version. There's an older version of Guzzle that was Guzzle HTTP, I think, or Guzzle. Yeah, so this is the abandoned one. So the new one that people should be using now. You can still see that a lot of people are still using the old, or have in the past installed Guzzle quite a bit. But this is what we need for now. So we're going to require, let's see if I can just copy and paste, and require Guzzle. All right, let's see what other things that's going to bring in here for us. Okay, so not too much. So I'm going to require, let's see how Guzzle's used again. I'm going to require the ingest to just get a client instance. Actually, I'm not even going to bother doing that since I don't need this to be super nice. To do client, and we'll do why am I getting broken things here? Selected variable. Private client. And we'll do client. So we'll just do, I remember, do client interface. It doesn't really matter, but we'll do it that way. And then we'll create a constructor. We don't actually want any of these. Select none. There we go. All right, and just for testing purposes, I'm going to create a new console command. So let's go back to our maker bundle. And we're going to do make command just to make sure. All right, argument name, choose a command name. So it does need to have, I wanted to double check the way to name these things. So let's do bin console make command, and we'll say ingest test. All right, so it created ingest test command. I go back to here, and I think I can do ingest test command. All right, cool. I don't really need all of that. If we look to see what it does, app test command is not defined. Oh, in test, yeah, there we go. So you have a new command, yay. So this is just some default output. What I want to do is try to use the controller as or the command as a service. And what this is going to let us do is take advantage of the auto wiring and auto configuring in the container. All right, so how to define commands as services. The main thing that you need to do is in the constructor, you need to call the parent constructor. So we're going to do this. This will allow the command to get the thing that we're looking for, injected into it without us having to do anything. So let's go ahead and do that. So inside our command here, we're going to do protected, and we call it ingest. Looks like Supernova just joined chat. Welcome. So ingest client and, oh no, export client, sorry. And we should actually rename this. And we're going to generate a new constructor and get export client in. And then remember, we have to call parent. All right, so let's see if this actually runs. Make sure we haven't done something else wrong. And ingest test. There we go. So at least it's working that far. What we can do then in configure is we'll say, let's go ahead and actually do some stuff here and say, now the ingest client, we don't need any args, and we don't really need to do this bit here. So we should get IO just so that we can do things with it. And let's go ahead and start looking at our export client. So let's do get our fetch export. And for this, if we go back to our guzzle docs, we need to tell the client to make a request. So for us, we're going to do API GitHub user. We want to change this to that podcast.io/export.json. So this is all very hard-coded at this point. Yeah, so this is what we want here. This client, unhandled guzzle exception. I think I'll be fine with that for now. But what we want to do is make sure we get the response. So we'll do response equals, and then we need to get the content of the response, and it's going to be JSON encoded. So we can do response get body, and we're just going to be loose with this. Return JSON decode. And response get body. And let's see if this gives us an error or something along those lines. Cool. So at least we're not getting an error, but we're not calling anything. So let's go ahead and call it. And we'll do this export client fetch export. So we're not going to do anything with the data. We're just going to see if it actually runs. Cool. Actually, I want the information to come back out as an associative array. I generally don't like dealing with the standard object stuff. So we'll do as associative array true. And let's, I don't want to go there anymore. To export equals, and then print our export, just to see that we're actually getting what we're expecting. Cool. All right, so this is all pretty straight ahead stuff. We are able to get this. I think I am going to revert one of the things that I said earlier, and I think I'm going to try and make this URL be configurable, perhaps. No, this is going to be fine. I don't see any reason until we actually change the export format. I think it's totally fine for us to do this. Again, this ingest is going to be hopefully a pretty temporary thing, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. So we have the export. And that was the main thing we need to do here. So we have our export client, fetch export. The important thing to note here, if you're a Laravel user, you probably would expect this all to work out of the box. If you're a Symfony user, you're probably wondering how this stuff is happening. Because we haven't done anything here to wire up even like the ingest test command, the export client itself. We're not doing that. We're doing, we're creating a new client here, so that sort of makes sense that it just works. To instantiate a new export client, you don't have to wire anything up for that. But the export client itself isn't wired. And most of that is due to the way that Symfony now handles its services. So if we go into services, just a quick walkthrough on this, because I'm going to be talking about this quite a bit because this is one of my favorite things. The defaults now, which came when Flex installed this package, is to turn on auto wiring, turn on auto configure. And auto wiring is making it so that your services don't have to know about each other, or you don't have to manually specify how your services interact with each other. Auto configure is things like, I guess this is a good example down here. Previously, if you had like a command, like we added a console command. Previously, I would have had to do something like this. Ingest test command, copy reference. I would have done tags, console.command. Can't remember what the tag actually is anymore because I don't have to worry about that. But I would have had to at least done that to make sure that Symfony automatically found this ingest test command to bring into the application. Because auto configure is set, what that means is any of the classes that fall into these categories, so anything in source, dependency injection, entity, migration test, kernel, these are excluded. So anything else in the source directory is going to be able to be auto-configured. So in the command folder, it's going to look at all of the classes, and anything that extends or implements any of the command-related things will automatically get tagged as console command. So the Symfony team has done a lot to try and make it a lot more friendly, developer-friendly to work within the Symfony commands, or the Symfony dependency injection container. Public false means that by default, things are not going to be exposed. So let's see here. It's a little harder to describe. Essentially, if I had done this with ingest test command, nothing would have been able to request this service because it would have been private by default. So only you can define things in here. If I reference, say, the ingest or export client, if this was private, I could do arguments at ingest test command. I could have done this. Nobody else, nowhere within the application could I do, say, container get. Like, this wouldn't work if you have a private service. So that's the default behavior. So we may have to expose some of these in some cases. But the side effect of this is that the number of services in the container are drastically smaller than they used to be. So that's something that I'm not sure a lot of Symfony developers, I'm sure a lot of Symfony developers would understand this one maybe, but this may be a concept that's different and not common for other people in other frameworks. Specifically for everything in app, we kind of talked about this one a bit. Controllers are a little special. So this is anything that's in the controller directory. This is going to apply these tags. So it's possible we may end up having to do some of these things a little later to sort of expose some more interesting functionality, especially if we aren't able to, if we do something with the dependency injection component that we don't have auto-configure capabilities. But if we get there, that's going to be pretty far from now. So let's go back to our export client. So we have the JSON decode. This is pretty much done. I'm going to say that we don't need to do a whole lot else with this. What I'm going to do next then is start modeling the episodes. Like what do we want to do to actually store the episodes? So I'm going to create a new directory in source, and just for now, until we can always refactor this later, I'm going to call this podcast, because everything that is going to be in here is going to be related to the podcast. So we're going to do a new class called episode. And then let's do a new class called episode list. Or episodes. Let's do episodes. I haven't done this sort of thing in a while, so we'll see if that's going to work. I'm actually going to change episodes to be an interface. And for this interface, I'm going to do, we need to expose a way to get the list, get episodes, or get all. And then we're going to do public function find by find by slug, maybe, and ask for a slug. So the idea here is we're going to be able to say episodes get all, which would return a list of episodes, and then we're going to be able to do episodes find by slug, and then we can do like the one with the good stuff. So this would be where we would use like the routing for checking to see the name of the on the URL, so we can get the episodes out that way. So I'm gonna try to do, let's see if I can do some PHP 7 fun stuff and actually do return types. PHP. I haven't done a lot of this either, and this is a good excuse for me to try to do that. Let's do language PHP. Not sure why it's not no interpreter. It does do PHP 7.1. So let's see if I can just do. You know what? I'm not going to try to do that right now. Return type episode and return type episode. All right. So what we're going to do now is build an implementation. So we're going to do. Let's see here. We'll call this export client episodes. And what this is going to do is implement episodes. And then we're going to want to implement methods. So we're going to want to implement get all and find by slug. All right, and then export client. Cool. And then create a constructor. All right. So we're going to make this simple. $export equals, all right, export client fetch export, and then we're going to return array values of export. So we're not actually going to return objects at this point. I'm probably going to get some weird behavior because it's not actually returning episode objects, but I just want to see this work. So we'll say return export client. And we're going to hack something here. It's not going to be very pretty. Return export double check what our export keys were. They were actually the GUID. Okay. All right, so array we're going to look at our exports. Actually, you know what? Let's just do get all first, and then we'll get back to this one, because I don't want to get too far ahead here. So if we go now back to our ingest test command, instead of the export client, we're going to want to get the export client episodes. So export, episodes. And we'll call episodes. So we're going to want the interface. This is going to require us to actually go into the services file to get this to work right. And then we want episodes. Okay. And then we don't get to call this anymore. So let's make sure we can at least run this. And I'm guessing there's going to be an error right out of the gate. What we're going to see, Oliver in chat just asked if I'd consider pulling in Laravel's Illuminate Collections library. Yeah, as I was writing array filter, I was realizing that that might not be my favorite thing to do right now, is to do those. So when we get to that point, we probably will. I probably will use Illuminate Collection. And just so, let's see here. Just there's the Titan co-collect, yeah, which is the standalone implementation of collect. So the team at Titan have gone through and essentially stripped out the requirements of it's Illuminate support, which is where the collection stuff comes from. So I think that's where it is. And Illuminate support itself has a couple of other extensions like Illuminate contracts and all this other stuff that we aren't going to use. So when we do use the collection library, we are going to use the Titan implementation that is going to make our life a lot easier. So the error, thanks for bringing that up, by the way. Yeah, it looks like Oliver says he's done a talk on this. So if anyone wants to learn more about that, I'm going to see if I can actually, yeah. So yeah, so there's he has a talk on this available if anyone wants to take a look at it. If you're not already familiar with Laravel collections, there's I can't remember the name of the project now. It's Adam Wathan's remember the name of his thing, refactoring to collections. This is another pretty nice resource if you're trying to learn how to do some interesting things with the collections project. So if you're looking for just straight up info on specifically TitanCo's collections, yeah, it's refactoring to collections. Or if you want to get more ideas about how to actually use collections in general, this is a pretty good resource. So getting back to this project, when we run this, I'm expecting that we're going to get an error with the dependency injection component. And we didn't, which is interesting. So I wonder why, unless there was only one instance. I wonder if it's that smart. Episodes, or because we're not doing anything with it. Might be passing in a proxy. Let's see what happens if we do episodes get all. Let's see if this gives us an error. No. Wow. I'm an old school, just printing stuff to the screen debugger type person. Export. Wow. Okay. So I guess it's smarter than I thought it was. I think where we might end up with a problem is if we create a proper implementation of episodes. The dependency injection component's not going to know which one to use. Since there's only one implementation, it knows which one to use. So that's great. It's one less thing we have to do. So that's great. So we're going to get all, and let's print our get all and see if it's actually returning our associative array again. It is. Cool. All right, so now we want to go to episode. We need to ingest this information, or bring this information into that object somehow. Yeah, right. Oliver says a good job to the Symfony DI team. I think that's pretty awesome. I agree. So let's look again at the keys that we need. So we have number, GUID. We basically need all of this information along with content, iTunes summary, and transcript. So let's paste these values. I think I have multiple cursors, so this is going to be kind of a pain. So I'm not going to try to do it. We'll just go down here. All right. So private, where are we at? Number, GUID. This would be a lot of fun just going through these. Title, subtitle, date, title, date, and I'm not going to worry about typing these right now. Video URL, duration, file size, what else we have? Path, and then background image, private. I'm just going to flatten these for now. Image width. Image. Ooh, here we have URL twice. Image. Credit by credit URL and credit description. Since Oliver is fairly versed at the collections stuff, is there a collections thing that will take an array and map it to a flat object on its own? If there is, I might try to do that. Otherwise, it's going to be a little more of this kind of redundant, boring stuff for at least a couple of minutes. Dollar content, private iTunes, summary, transcript. And I'm going to do these as HTML. So it's clear that it's HTML. Ideally, what I'll end up wanting to do is reverse engineer the HTML and convert it back into Markdown, or into Markdown, I guess. All right, and then let's go ahead and remove this. And just to get started, let's do static public function. We're going to want to do from JSON export. Export. And all right, so it looks like there might be a method flatten thing. Because if this is true, that might be kind of nice to leverage that. Let's see what this actually does. Flatten method flattens a multi-dimensional array. So it creates a new version called flattened. Yeah, I don't think that's going to be what I need. Not here. I think it'll be easier to just get the values out. Thanks for looking that up. I appreciate that. Let's do this then. Instance. No. Oh, I can do it in here because it's private. Okay, let's do number. And then we have GUID title. Subtitle. And date was next. And then media URL. Duration. File size path. Let's just start with this for now. Oh, no. All right, and then copy these. So the idea is that we're going to try and get just an object with the right information in them directly from the JSON file, rather than trying to store it in a database or anything like that. At least to begin with. And then let's create some getters. So. Blanking on the hotkey for that, so let's do code generate getters, and let's get them all. All right, cool. So now what we should be able to do is go into the implementation here, and rather than just returning the export outright, let's jump straight to collections. So let's add Titan composer rec Titan co collections. Is it collections or collections? Oh, Titan collect. Okay. All right, so fetch export. Let's actually take this all the way back to the export client and have this return array values and then collect. Can I use, just want to double check how I can use collect. I don't remember how you get the collect function out there. Let's see here, support, contract support, stubs. Hey Joe, I thought I recognized that. So I can just, so Oliver, I can just, use collect. That's what you're saying? I wonder if I can do this then. Yeah. Let's see if this runs. Array values expects parameter 1 to be an array. Okay, cool. So I think it's actually working. So I think let's do export client. Okay. So we're going to do this as a collection. All right. So export map $JSON. Actually, we'll call it JSON episode and return episode from JSON export. There we go. In theory, this should just work. If it does, I'll be pretty happy. Nothing undefined index number. All right. Whoa. I'm working on a somewhat full-size keyboard again, so every once in a while I have a lot of fun with that. Let's see what we end up with. Yeah, it looks like there's somebody else in chat, Bob, was asking if a lib split off Laravel would work well in Symfony, and it really does. It's pretty awesome. So let's see here. It's content. You know what? It's bringing in the whole thing. So I wonder if I do need to do array values here. No. And Joe Ferguson just said that there's a project from Matt Stauffer called Torch that shows a lot of examples of how to use Laravel's components decoupled outside of Laravel. So if you're interested in that, that's definitely something that you could check out. Let's see here. Why is this so... JSON decode array values. Array keys. Is this the same Symfony 4 Flex app Beau started a few days ago? Yeah, so Joe asked, this is the, there's actually two projects that I'm working on concurrently with Astrocasts. One is the actual Astrocast website, but the main line, the one that I'm doing Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at this time, are that podcast website. So the thing I just had totally forgotten is that there's actually a top level key called episodes. I probably didn't need to leave that on there, but I'm not going to change it now. So what I'm going to, all that really means is that I should be able to return collect JSON episodes. So it really was broken what I was trying to do. Yeah. Those top level keys will get you every time. It's, yeah, quite true. Also, keys in general will get you. So if we go back to the episode, these were actually not camel caps. There we go. Let's see if that avoids some things for us. Okay, cool. All right, so let's go back. So it still says undefined index number. 74. All right, so where am I printing that out? Print our JSON episode. Need to take that less off. All right, so so it's because it's returning null here. So if I look at JSON episode, it's giving me the key. I actually wanted the values, so let me do this. There's probably other ways I could do this, but I really don't care about those keys. All right, so it looks like that's not working the way I expected. Number. Okay, cool. So print our episodes get all. Actually, for each. Let's try to print these out in a nice way. So print f. Number get title and subtitle. Okay, it looks like they're in reverse order. So I think we can do return export map reverse. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, it looks like Oliver's saying if get all returns a collection, you could chain each onto it. That would actually probably be a pretty good idea. We'd have to actually change the return type here to return a collection instead of an array of episodes. Honestly, I'm not sure how I feel about that. I think you can use a collection as an array. So yeah, I think I'll leave it like this for now. And then if I need to use it as a collection somewhere, I can upcast it to a collection. So if I go back to here, what I could do is dollar all episodes get all, and then episodes each. Oh no, there we go. I think this will do more or less the same thing. This is app episode. Of course. There we go. You got to make sure and import it. Awesome. All right. So honestly, I don't know if I should reverse it. because we want it generally in newest at the top anyway. So I think I'm going to revert that little bit I did. Really, this probably shouldn't be here anyway. There should probably be some sort methods or whatever to handle this properly, but we'll just leave it like this for now. All right, so this would be enough to bring in this information. Let's see. We need to get, oh, no, go away. We still need to get the rest of the information from the JSON, I believe. So we go to episode from JSON. Yeah, so we only got as far as path. Let's not worry about that for now. The next thing that I want to try and implement is the find by slug. And so this is definitely going to try and use the export as a collection. So find by slug should do filter, episode, and then first. And we want to return episode get path $path. And so we need to use path. And what do those values look like? Let's see here. So they go /episodes. There we go. So path is going to be episodes.slug. And it's going to try and find the first one of those. So if we go back to ingest test command, print the same thing, but we'll do this based on finding one. Episode equals this, episodes, find by slug, and then let's use number. Let's go far enough back that it's actually a meaningful search. Let's look for episode 48, the one without all the CSS. That was the episode of that podcast we did on Tailwind. So there we go. And we'll see if this actually comes up with the right thing. Print. All right, so argument passed. Returning collection. Oh, get all here. I don't think it is. Episodes is returning an array of episodes. That's what I was saying, that okay, I see. All are values. Yeah. So what you're saying is what I need to do here is do all? Or no? It's let's see what happens if I take this collect off. I'm pretty sure this doesn't work, but if it does, then yeah, it's a little redundant. Yeah, okay, it is. Okay, so all right. So this comes down to what the interface is. Right now, the interface is supposed to be an array of episode objects. And I kind of intentionally didn't want it to be a collection. So I probably should change this so that it actually honors the, yeah. so that it actually honors what I was intending to do with it. So let's go back here and add the collect again. Right. So there is a doc block that says it's an array, but there's no return type enforcing it. That's what I was kind of concerned about. I wasn't sure if that's what I wanted to do or not. Must be an instance of app podcast closure. Must be an instance of episode. Oh. An array was given. So let's see here. Let's go back into here. Export filter. This was so this. I was okay. So the problem here is that I was pretending like this was an episode object already, which is not the case. So JSON episode. And this is going to, if this works, it's still going to have an error because it's going to be trying to call functions on an array. Let's see if it works though. Call to member function, get number on an array. Awesome. So what this means we can do is map return there we go. So here we just want the first value. So now it should actually be working. Cool. All right. So now we have the one without all the CSS except for the bit in shame.css. So we have a little implementation now that is essentially making a request to the live thatpodcast.io website to get an export every time we do one of these things. But I think that's going to be okay. And let's see how we are for time. It looks like we're out of time for right now. So I think what the next session is going to be on Monday, we'll be creating some placeholder controllers for these. We are going to start showing this information, probably in a very not pleasing way like this is, but at least we'll be able to start seeing real data populate so we can make sure that all of the functionality is there, and then we can turn more focus again on Tailwind and actually trying to match the existing layout and design. Meanwhile, as we publish new episodes, things will just keep working. So we actually have a new episode published since the first session. We have episode 51 with JMac, was the last one that we had seen, but now we have episode 52. So with any luck, what we're going to be able to do is have a way to really test this code really well. And then once we have all of the data ready to be ported and we have a proper implementation of episodes, we can turn off the old website and start getting that information from the whatever storage mechanism we set up for the actual application. Does anyone have any questions before I sign off?